In this video, we are going to see an overview of the linked data generation process. The linked data generation process has the goal of representing a data source using the formats standardized by the World Wide Web Consortium, and of linking those data with other existing data on the web. Such process is composed of different tasks, each with its inputs and its outputs, that do not need to be performed manually, since we can use different software tools for most of them. The first task of the linked data generation process is the selection of the data that will be transformed into linked data. Such data may come from one or more data sources, which may belong to the organization or not. Particularly in the last case, we will have to take special care on the license on the data, as we will see later. The next task consists on obtaining access to the data source. This should not pose a problem if the data belong to the organization or are open. In any case, we must have the technical means to access such data, independently of the format, either files, databases, data streams, or programming interfaces. In that moment, we must analyze the license of the data, that is, the legal terms under which the selected data can be exploited. With the goal of avoiding legal conflicts, it is necessary to determine who is the data rights holder and which licenses have been declared for them, which may not be a trivial task in practice. Once we know that the license of the selected data source allows us using them, the next step consists on analyzing the data source to understand such data and how they are structured and organized. This comprises the analysis of both the data, quantities, value ranges, etc., and the schema of such data, for example, which restrictions apply, such as data type definitions. Clearly, non-structured data will require a more complex analysis. The next task is to define our resource naming strategy. Resources, which can be either web resources or any other entity existing outside the web, are one of the key concepts in the linked data approach, and they are identified using IRIs. We have to define a resource naming strategy that ensures that we are giving unique identifiers to the resources that we are generating, and that the generated identifiers, that is, the generated IRIs, are persistent. In that moment, we must develop our ontology by describing the concepts in our domain and the relationships between them. Ontologies are formal models that can be used to represent data on the web, and that can be implemented using the OWL language, which stands for Web Ontology Language, which has been standardized by the World Wide Web Consortium. As a relief to those with not much experience in ontological engineering, ontologies do not need to be heavyweight, with plenty of axioms and restrictions. In practice, most of the ontologies used to represent data are lightweight and only include the vocabulary needed to name classes and properties. After having developed the ontology, this is used along with the resource naming strategy to transform our data into RDF, another W3C standard. The steps to do so will depend on the selected RDF serialization, on the tool used to transform the data, and on any other requirement related to the assurance of the data quality. Finally, the last task of the generation process has the goal of linking our data with other datasets to ensure that our data is not isolated, but linked to other existing data on the web. To do so, we have to decide with which datasets we want to link to and to select the tool to carry out such task.